Bing bong. I am live with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast. I hope you guys were able to join me yesterday. If not, you should check that out. But first, I want to shout out MyNode at MyNodeBTC on Twitter and MyNodeBTC.com. They're helping me out with podcasting 2.0, and that should be up and running now. So you guys should check me out on either like Breeze or Fountain or one of those other podcasting 2.0 apps. And if you feel the need, then stream me sats, and I'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. Now, today I got a very, very special guest. I've got the host or the organizer, I don't even know what to call it, of the Knoxville Bitcoin Meetup, all the way out in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I'm going to pull him up. Hey, man, how are you doing today?
What's happening, Brandon? Good. Glad to be here. Appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get things started. So let's go into your orange pill story and like how you found Bitcoin.
So it was, I'm still fairly new, got into Bitcoin in early 2021, first heard about it, texting my neighbor who I grew up going to his house, like tutoring him when he was in fourth grade. We played wolf ball in his backyard and stuff, and he's like 8 years younger than me or so. And he messaged me like something was going on around January 6th, and he's like, "Oh, Bitcoin's gonna love it." And I was like, "What's that?" And then like he didn't reply or something, and then had a few touches in between, and then did my first smash buy on February 18th of 2021, and just went hard down the rabbit hole since then. So him and his dad got me going hard.
So wow, that's awesome. Well, So I see you're out in Knoxville, and so I have to ask you this one question: why is the University of Tennessee so trash at football?
I don't know, man. Unfortunately, I don't have an opinion on that because I just moved to Knoxville like less than 3 months ago from Bakersfield, California.
Okay. So, all right, I gotcha. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Okay.
However, I am a baseball fan over football, and their baseball team is pretty good this year. So I went out and watched the game. They're number one in the nation. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So I went to Texas A&M for grad school. So I was going to give you a little hard time about the University of Tennessee football, but.
Well, hey, they bleed orange like Bitcoin does. So I am starting to lean towards them for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. That orange is kind of disgusting, but that's neither here nor there. A baseball guy then, huh? So you're out in Bakersfield. That's Northern California, is that correct?
Central Valley.
Okay, so who's your MLB team then?
Dodgers.
Okay. Yeah. I'm a Cubs fan, so we got one from you in 2016, and that's about it. You guys sustained it while we fallen off a cliff, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
that happens.
Yeah, I know that's sports and that's life, right? Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, back to Bitcoin, and I hope you enjoy Knoxville. Knoxville's beautiful. I went to school in Memphis and there, so I got out to Knoxville, and that side of Tennessee is very pretty. So, and it seems like there's a lot of, Bitcoiners kind of congregating over there. I know that you got Nashville meetups, very big, and you're starting the Knoxville meetup. So how is that experience going, starting a meetup in maybe not the biggest city, but, very close, maybe like 3 or so hours, right? From
3 hours.
Yeah, so close enough to a big hub like Nashville. Are you getting like some good traction in your meetup and kind of starting that off?
Yeah, so it's, this Southeast region is really kind of starting to flourish as Bitcoin, populations. And, meetups are all over the place around here. You could, within 2 hours from Knoxville, you could go to several different meetups. There's Chattanooga, Asheville's within a couple hours in North Carolina. Huntsville's like 3 hours away. So there's all kinds of Lexington above us. So lots of opportunity around here. But I was starting a meetup back home in Bakersfield before I moved to Knoxville, and right when I moved here, I went to the Nashville meetup on my first night in Tennessee, and I saw the atmosphere at that, and I was just like, oh man, like I got to keep meetups going, and I want to try to work towards something like this, like for Knoxville or wherever I'm living. And so yeah, I just started going hard at it, and after a couple of weeks, Justin from Huntsville Group messaged me on Telegram. He's like, "Hey, what's this about?" And it was another Knoxville Bitcoin Meetup group starting up, and I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "Well, just thought I'd let you know." So I end up messaging him, and I was like, "Hey, looks like you're trying to do this. Let's work together." And it's been a great relationship. My buddy Connor, and he does all the like PowerPoint stuff, information, technical. He built us a website. And then I'm working on doing the organizing of the meetup, planning that all out, and just trying to network that out, for now. So it actually, our relationship meshes super well. And, we so far have gotten our first meetup, we had 17 people. And then last night we had 20. So we have a good group of guys. There's engineers there. And that's a beautiful thing, like so many different people and a lot of intellectual people, engineers, we got traditional finance people, a couple of Bitcoin miners. We got a grad student at UT from Vietnam who wrote a paper for school on Bitcoin mining and proof of stake versus proof of work. So just some really cool people who we're coming across here, and we're in the early stages. I found a great venue, the Mirage downtown, and the owner's been generous enough to give us a free space once a month. All we have to do is take care of the bartender. They got food, nice big venue, downstairs, private, hookah lounge if you want that. So it's starting off really well for just being here for under 3 months. And, but, like I said, I got a couple buddies helping me do it, another buddy of mine from work, and then my buddy Connor. So it's not easy getting it going. It could be a lot of work. And for anybody trying to start meetups, you see these bigger meetups, don't get down on yourself, just be persistent. And I spend a lot of time trying to network it out and get the word out about our group. And you can ask my fiance. I do a little bit much on it. So I appreciate her being patient with me and supporting me through this. So she definitely makes that easier, because if she hated it, that would not be easy to do. So.
Hey man, good on you for all that. And I mean, 20 is nothing to scoff at. I know that there's, some of these big meetups and people look at, Nashville and Austin who have like 150 or whatever. But, in like a normal metropolitan city, even, I'm in Tampa, and now there's kind of, there was a Bitcoin meetup, and then it kind of turned into more of a blockchain crypto one. So unfortunately, it was something that I kind of stopped going to a little bit. Absolutely. And now I see that there's another Bitcoin, just like a Bitcoin only, starting up. And like, Tampa Bay has Tampa, St. Petersburg, whatever. And, I think at the Bitcoin only right now, there's only 13 or 14 people that go to that fairly consistently. So, I mean, and that's a big, metropolitan area as well. And so I think that don't cut yourself short, man.
Oh, 20 by no means am I. I told my buddy, like, I'm pumped. Like this, we get a good turnout. So yeah, by no means am I shorting it. We get a good group of people coming out, and we've had a couple females. So it's nice to have that little bit. So
yeah, there you go.
Probably being dragged by their fiancés or husbands, but.
It happens. I mean, at least they're coming out though and supporting, and at the end of the day, it's all about numbers. Now, I've actually had Craig who does the Asheville meetup, and I've had Justin on too. And I think that's actually how we got connected, was Justin. So the Bitcoin connector doing his thing. So shout out to Justin and the Knoxville meetup down there. So I've had a lot of meetups on, and or people that run meetups. And I've been to the Nashville one, and I've been to a couple other, and I want to venture around, and maybe like during the fall, I'll come up for a UT football game, and then I'll time it so I can come for a meetup as well. But anyway, like, how are you kind of structuring it? Because I've seen two different ways, right? Some of them try to maybe do it a little bit more formal and educate, and others are more lax, like let's go have a beer or something and talk about Bitcoin. So what have you kind of, or how have you kind of structured yours?
Yeah, so I before moving to Knoxville, I was a high school substitute teacher. Went to school, got a degree in history, wanted to be a high school history teacher, and so I just have a desire to educate. So many people, when you try to get them into Bitcoin, they just have the lack of knowledge, and they have the lack of desire to go research it. And so I wanted the structure of the meetups. I love how Nashville does theirs, the topic. And so what I'm trying to do for, do like a 21 weeks of introduction to Knoxville Bitcoin Meetup. And so just, what is money? And then the next one, Bitcoin on-chain versus Lightning, hardware wallets, cold storage, and just kind of gradually get into it. I really hope one day to get new people to our meetups, because I want it to be an educational experience. I want Knoxville to have somewhere to go and feel like they truly have a great place to learn and great people around them to learn from. And that's where you truly do learn. It's just those conversations afterwards, talking to other Bitcoiners, getting different perspectives. But yeah, I'm doing it once a month. I want it to be something to look forward to. I also don't want the meetup to be a second job necessarily and be doing it every week. I don't personally drink that fiat juice. So, getting together, having beers, don't care. And then, so we're just doing it once a month. And if time, if we start getting bigger and people want to do it more frequently, by all means, but for now, I think once a month's good. Let's start getting some traction. But every group has a different opinion about that and different desires. Some people want to have a social gathering with just close friends, and that's great. But like I said, just my educational background, I definitely want it to be a learning experience for anyone involved.
Yeah, for sure. And that sounds awesome. Yeah, like I said, like I think there's a good mix, and I think it really depends on the crowd and what the people there want. I had Hedy Wook on at one point, and he kind of helps the OC Bitcoin Network up in.
Hey, shout out to Hedy Wook, because I went to my first meetup was one he was putting on, and he really kind of helped get the fire going in me. So shout out to him for what he did. So I appreciate him. I was even messaging him, just trying to get help and everything. So I appreciate him. He was one of my early guys in here, him and Brian Harrington. So
yeah, I've actually had them both on. So I mean, the California Bitcoiners, they're something else, and I really like them. I had
it's Bitcoiners in general.
Yeah,
Bitcoiners in general are something else. There's genuine people. Like, it's just, we are different people.
Yeah, no, for sure. I 100% I'm with you. And I think, when it comes down to it too, like the community is always going to be there to help you. And like Hedy and Brian and, Justin and all these people that are running networks, our meetups are all like willing to network and kind of help each other out. And, I don't think that's just the people that are running the meetups. Like everybody I've kind of run into in the Bitcoin space is exactly like that. And it's been a great time in the industry and in the space as well. And I just I can't say enough about it. So good on you for organizing that meetup, and I'm gonna try to make it out sometime this year. I keep saying that about a lot of these meetups, but
one of these days. But most importantly, local action. Get like, as fun as it is going elsewhere, what's important is what you're doing in your hometown and those around you.
Yeah, exactly. And so the fiat expense of traveling all the way around is not easy. Yeah, so if somebody wants to sponsor me out there to help me travel around and be boots on the ground, I'd be more than happy to do it.
Can you ride a motorcycle? I've seen people doing that, traveling.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, shout out to Sid. Yeah, shout out to Sid. So yeah, so we haven't really mentioned it yet, but I know that you work in the industry, and I think that's really interesting. So, especially because you've only been in Bitcoin for a short time. So why don't you tell us a little bit? I guess I don't know how much you want to get into what you do, but tell us as much as you can, I guess, about what you do in the industry as far as
Yeah.
like the actual job.
Yeah. So I work for GRIID infrastructure. So I'm a Bitcoin miner for my fiat job. And yeah, been in Bitcoin for a year. And when I was substitute teaching, I would put in podcasts and just be going down the rabbit hole, the whole day, pass out some assignments. It wasn't much to do as a sub. And I just knew I had to work in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be the future. And if I could find a way to, get involved in the space somehow, get more Bitcoin exposure, it's just going to allow somebody like me who doesn't have a ton of funds to go buy a ton of sats or wasn't in.
I think we're having some sound issues.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm on my fiance's iPad and she hooked up her AirPods.
No worries. Okay. Go ahead and get into it. Sorry.
Where did I cut out at?
Just start over from so you work for GRIID infrastructure as your fiat job, and that's kind of where you cut out right there.
Yeah. So just went hard down the rabbit hole and just knew I had to get more Bitcoin exposure, knew I had to be around Bitcoin more, and just knew I wanted to be working with Bitcoin and trying to help do Satoshi's work. So I sent out multiple resumes out to different places. Right, you miss out on a really hard worker, and but I'm so happy with where I'm at. I'm so happy with what I'm getting to do every day. I'm getting to plug in miners and securing the Bitcoin network. I get to be creative, get hands-on. It's definitely some hard work when you're putting in lots and lots of miners over time. So, carrying 30 to 40 pounds over and over, doing like Russian twists with them and stuff. And, it's definitely some hard work, but when you're a Bitcoiner like me and getting that experience, because, like I went to a Bitcoin mining meetup in Nashville and, the home miners, like, yeah, I would love to have, 1, 2, 3, whatever at home. But to think like what I'm getting to do and, how, like, it's pretty incredible. And, the thing is too, like, a Bitcoin job like this, you would think there'd be a bunch of me's around, but I'm like one of the few in the company. So my job's also to be trying to orange peel my coworkers to let them see the beauty and everything that we're doing. GRIID is just a really fun experience so far. I mean, I'm truly getting to live the freaking dream right now, doing this. I love going to work. I love being there, and it's hard to stop working when I'm there just because I know what I'm doing. And I think, we're getting to mine Bitcoin at $30,000, sub 30s. Like, man, that what we're mining now is going to be worth it here, and just I wish my coworkers could experience that feeling and know what we're doing, but it is what it is. So, other than that, I'm just working on keeping all of our site, the hash rate up, and it's pretty great.
Wait, so I don't want you to dox too many of your coworkers, but it sounds like you don't have like full on all Bitcoiners there. Is that kind of right?
I'm the only one.
Really?
At my site of, there's less than 10 people. Yeah, I'm the only one at her site, and there's like maybe 1 or 2 throughout the other sites. So
wow, that's really interesting working at a Bitcoin mining company. I would figure everybody.
No, don't get me wrong. The higher up, the guys who I don't necessarily see, there are some more up there as well. But
oh yeah,
as far as like on the ground, plugging in miners, like doing the work, so to say, the harder work. There's not many of us, so it's different. It's not what I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised as well. So I kind of would have figured, like, why would you work for a Bitcoin mining company if you're not, a Bitcoiner? But hey, I mean, I guess whatever pays the bills at that point, right? So
Hey, I've done fiat jobs that I didn't care about too. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Well, you kind of mentioned it in your little talk there about your job. So let's get into some of these current event stories. So I don't really like to do price talk that often. I've actually got a group chat in there that says, we never talk about the price, especially when it's going up, because we always jinx it. But this is something interesting. It's the first time in Bitcoin's history that there's been 8 straight weekly red candles after it fell below 30K mark on Monday. So like I said, generally not, but I feel like there's been a lot of FUD surrounding Bitcoin, and maybe the greater crypto, when maybe like the soft hands kind of got in, saw the Luna FUD and group Bitcoin with it, or what have you. I don't know. But I think like this is kind of interesting because, as a miner and everything, you have like a pretty good understanding of, the halving events and what that does to hash rate and everything, and thus, what miners need to sell in order to make a profit, and XYZ. And I think, kind of coming into this cycle, a lot of Bitcoiners subscribe to maybe the super cycle theory, where instead of it going in kind of 4-year cycles, it was kind of only going to go straight up, or not straight up, but gradually increasing throughout this halving. And we've seen it kind of top at 69K, and now we're kind of floating around 30, maybe just under. So I guess, what are your thoughts kind of on the price? It seems like you're already a little excited about the 30K opportunity. So I kind of have a feeling what you're going to say about it. But what do you think about, first time in Bitcoin's history, 8 straight weekly red candles?
sounds like the first time Bitcoiners have been able to buy the dip for 8 weeks in a row. Hey, it's opportunity. It's all about what is going, about Bitcoin. That's how you're going to view the price action. If you don't know very much about Bitcoin, you're going to be very fearful. If you know a lot about Bitcoin, you're going to be smiling like me. It is what it is. And look at our world right now, what's going on. We're living in chaos. Markets are down. Everything else is down. You're constantly seeing this crashing, that crashing. Inflation is going out the roof. I mean, we're in unprecedented times. I think any kind of technical or chart analysis or anything is just everything's thrown out the window at this point, because nobody can predict what's going on in the world. And there's such a mindset that Bitcoin's like a stock and everything, and for people who are new, and it just has that same mindset, and the correlations I think are showing in the Bitcoin price, and due to new people, those greedy people being shorted, whatever, just all kinds of crazy things going on that makes the price unpredictable. It's kind of like the Plan B thing. When I was getting into it, appreciated it at first, but and I just learned, like, quit paying attention to the charts, what's going on with all that, just keep stacking, and, everything's going to be fine. Bitcoin would have died by now if it was going to die. So I'm not concerned about it. But that's just, like I said, because of conviction. So.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. So, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think, a lot of people look at Bitcoin, and they exactly like you said, they look at stocks, and at the end of the day, it's still kind of correlated, as much as Bitcoiners kind of want to say it's going to be this uncorrelated asset. A lot of the FUD surrounding it, or, a lot of the things that I hear no coiners say about it, is essentially that, Bitcoin is very correlated with growth stocks and things like that, and growth is down, and so will Bitcoin be. But at the end of the day, like, everything's kind of down, right?
Yeah.
We kind of have this. It seems like almost an impeding, recession kind of coming on, and I really hope that that's not the case, and we don't fall deep into it, but I just don't kind of see a way around it. So, I mean, it'll be kind of interesting to see how Bitcoin faces in its first like recession, if that comes to it. If maybe people kind of flock to Bitcoin, or if, at the end of the day, Bitcoin just kind of falls down even a little bit farther, just like the rest of investable assets. I mean, I think, my opinion, I know maybe people will kind of call me a bear or whatever, but I kind of think it'll kind of float around here for a little bit until we get a little bit closer to the next halving. Or at least it's kind of what it seems like to me. So, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not exactly like all into the technical analysis. I agree with you. I was kind of subscribed to the plan B, the stock to flow, when that was first going, but it seems like that's kind of broken now. And I just think we're getting kind of farther away from the point where you can analyze on chain and kind of make predictions that way. So, like I said, the price, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm still buying. Sounds like you're still buying. And obviously not financial advice or anything like that. If you want financial advice, maybe check out the Canadian Bitcoiners who are, in the chat. Just kidding. They don't give financial advice. It's a big joke, but I mean, here we go. I just keep buying, and I think you'll be in a good spot. I mean, as long as you have a long enough time horizon, Bitcoin's going to be there. So I don't know.
For the grandkids.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Hold for dear life. So this So this is another story that we're going to dive into. I think it's kind of interesting because I'd like to hear about what your experience is with Bitcoin mining with GRIID. But there was recently a white paper published in the Journal of Marine Science and Engineering that they're going to be using ocean thermal energy conversion to use for Bitcoin mining. In this paper, it said it has the potential to unlock between 2 and 8 terawatts of clean and continuous power by harnessing the thermal energy of the oceans. So, I'm an engineer by trade, but, more like on the biomechanical side, opposed to, maybe the this kind of realm. So I'm going to explain it on a very surface level and not really get into the deep technologies because I don't think I could do it any justice. But essentially, what they're going to do is harness the warm tropical water at the top and the deep, cold seawater towards the bottom of the ocean to kind of provide heat for this conventional engine. And then they'll also use the cool water to kind of submerge the ASIC miners, which I think is kind of a unique perspective. So the way Jack Dorsey tweeted, maybe a while ago, I can't remember exactly when, but at one point he tweeted, Bitcoin encourages the use of renewable energy. And so it seems like, with a lot of these projects going on that, people are kind of trying to find a way to harness this renewable energy. So what has your experience been working for a Bitcoin mining company? Are you guys kind of diving into renewable energy or something along those lines, or can you give us like maybe a little nugget or something like that on like how the process is?
Yeah, I mean, the VP of the company goes on the What Bitcoin Did podcast, and he talks about it in a lot better explanation than I do. But yeah, we look for renewables, clean energy. That's just where the world's going nowadays. If you want to get investors, looking into your companies and stuff, like that, everybody wants clean energy and everything. But the ocean thermal energy, it's definitely something fascinating, especially when you think about El Salvador and doing geothermal energy. But that's kind of the cool part is, with the whole Bitcoin mining, it provides incentive for people to go out and, get that energy and find new ways and to get more creative than what we've ever been. And with technology advancing like the way it is, Harry Sudok likes to say, like, for energy, they used to go out in the ocean and kill whales for the blubber, and that sounds ridiculous nowadays, and so, digging wells. I have an oil field background as well. Back home in Bakersfield, big oil field area. So I did several years out in the oil fields. So to just think like, with time, the way the world's changing and everything, and how diverse that energy rabbit hole is, and just how deep that rabbit hole is. I mean, it's going to be really fascinating at the way our world innovates and try to find new and creative ways. I'm by no means an engineer, but that ocean thermal energy, like kind of talking with some guys who might know some things about, that area, and just talking about, it just seems unlikely, maybe the costs up front, it seems hard to imagine, but people get proved wrong all the time, and people are getting more and more creative by day. So it's just going to be super fascinating. It provides, third world countries who have renewable energy sources, they're going to find new and creative ways to find energy for the first time, and have incentives to do that. And it's just amazing what Bitcoin is going to unlock. It's not just for, money. You could just shoot that anywhere. It's going to affect energy. It's going to affect food. It's going to affect health. It's going to affect, the list goes on, just what Bitcoin's going to touch. And it's just going to be beautiful what it does to our society if we adopt the Bitcoin standard as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, and we got Dan in the chat, a former co-host of mine as well.
That was another thing too. I was thinking, like, I mean, think about it. Oil fields used to be on the ground, and they went and did the offshore mining. Like there's so many new and innovations coming. Who knows what's going to be happening. So hopefully the ocean thermal proves us wrong, and we have a new way of getting energy.
Yeah, and I'm okay. So Dan said, imagine a giant offshore Bitcoin mining rig. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100% there. I mean, I have a buddy that goes and works for Shell, and he goes and flies out and stays on an oil rig in the ocean in the Gulf for 2 weeks at a time. Then he gets 2 weeks off, and that's kind of how he works, and that's a fairly common practice in that industry as well. So, I mean, I couldn't see a world where that wouldn't be something feasible. I mean, people would do it now for oil. I wouldn't doubt that they do it, for Bitcoin mining, or they find a way to do it that way too. So, a lot of interesting stuff. And I think, like you said, Bitcoin changes a lot, and a lot of Bitcoiners are kind of realizing the power, or people in general are realizing the power of Bitcoin. Yeah, I think it's just going to keep causing more innovation. And maybe we'll even get like the Canadian Bitcoiners are in here saying, like, we can use geothermal and higher electric, and we'll get the US naval fleet to maybe start mining Bitcoin or something like that, which would be something very interesting. I mean, I don't know if necessarily we'd have the naval fleet doing it, but private companies or people along those lines. I mean, every country seemingly has some body of water, whether it's a giant lake or near an ocean, where they could potentially mine Bitcoin off of. So it's interesting to see a lot of these countries and people just trying to find ways to use natural energy sources that we haven't really that it hasn't really been pushed to do that prior, and now we're kind of making that big push, it seems.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so great stuff there. So on the next story, so the Oslo Freedom Forum is going on right now, and there's some big name Bitcoiners there. I've seen I've seen a bunch of people. Our buddy, good friend Bitcoin Gandalf is there, so shout out to Bitcoin Gandalf. But we've also seen Jack Mallers is up there of Strike. So what I thought was interesting, and the big takeaway I took from there is I saw that Jack Mallers and the Human Rights Foundation, CSO, and others got together with the Norwegian government to educate them on Bitcoin. So it seems like a lot of these maybe conferences or meetups, if you want to call it that, are happening with government officials and with maybe some people in the finance realm. So we have the Oslo Freedom Forum going on, which is, to my understanding, kind of like a Bitcoin conference. And we have that, and then we also had, the El Salvador meeting last week, where Bukele got, I think it was like 44 different countries came and brought some representative to meet and get orange pilled as well. So what do you think about, I guess, government adoption and not only like orange pilling, just plebs, but now orange pilling governments?
Yeah, so this is definitely a debatable topic in the Bitcoin space, and my personal view is, if we could get more politicians to echo the Bitcoin name out there and get more people orange pilled through their voice, I think it is what it is. I don't know, it's just that it's a slippery slope. It's a beautiful thing, but then, man, it could get so ugly so quick. But ultimately, if we all buy Bitcoin, it doesn't matter what the government says, we don't need them. So as much as I want them to try to say, yes, make it legal tender and adoption happen, who knows, maybe the regulations they put on it makes that not worth it. And, but, for now, it's, after seeing what El Salvador did, it's just like, well, if it is going to happen, then let's try to make it happen. Find a genuine person who's going to echo that voice. And Bitcoiners are pretty easy to pick out. You can tell who's a genuine Bitcoiner or not by the way their passion shows, through the way they talk about it. And, sometimes you can be able to pick out the BS in the politicians and the way they, maybe they say crypto all of a sudden or whatever. It's kind of a red flag. You could tell who's hardcore orange pilled ones and who's not. So tread carefully if you are interested in trying to orange pill. I tweet out the Knoxville mayor, the WWE guy, Kane. I try to message him or shout him out on Twitter. Big guy never replies. Hit us up, Kane. Come check out a Bitcoin meetup. Let's orange pill Knoxville. I mean, I don't know how much more simpler it gets than that, but it's pretty crazy what that could do. The El Salvador thing, all those countries. The beautiful thing about what El Salvador did, the other day at those countries, those are a bunch of poor third world countries. Imagine if those are the first countries to adopt Bitcoin and the G7, G20 countries get left behind. Amazing. They get payback for all the torture they've been put through their years. All the tyranny they face and everything, they've been put down and basically shut out from flourishing, human societies for years. And they could have an opportunity to choose their own money for the first time and adopt the Bitcoin standard. So obviously these big events are super impactful for the space, but also there's snakes out there, so you got to be careful.
Yeah, I in my personal opinion, I never really trust politicians just because they need votes or they need approval. So it almost seems like they'll say whatever they want. But at the end of the day, there's kind of some aspect of needing to get votes or whatever, that maybe they'll listen to the people's voices. Now, I'm always against kind of regulation, and I think my buddy Bitcoin Gandalf, he made a good point where he said he'd rather have Bitcoin just kind of avoid capital gains taxes and let the free market decide what the best sound money is. And now I'm starting to come around and subscribe to that theory as well, just because, when there's regulation, there's always some sort of halt, and you need the proper education to make the proper, legislation around it. And I just don't think that politicians are going to be willing to put in the time for it, unfortunately. And by the time that they put in the time for it and figure it out, it'll be too late. Bitcoin just keeps trucking on. So I hope that Bitcoin eventually just kind of becomes so big that it's just legal tender everywhere if people are accepting it. I guess if you ran a business or if I ran a business where I was selling some product, and at the end of the day, if I wanted to be like, hey, I'm only going to accept Bitcoin, you'll pay me in Bitcoin, right? And I think like some people will do that, and some people will kind of move towards that. Um, but it'll be interesting. I think, we're in the US, we're still a little bit away from like education in there. I think a lot of smaller countries have less to lose than United States. So I think, well, that's why we're seeing countries like El Salvador and smaller countries kind of join forces and everything like that. Um, but we already mentioned it. We already mentioned the Central African Republic. And so they obviously made it legal tender. I've heard rumblings too that they're going to make their own coin, kind of similar to Miami coin, unfortunately. So hopefully that doesn't happen and they stay with just Bitcoin as legal tender. But now they're going to create a Bitcoin island. So they're dubbing it the Sango Investment Hub, and they're going to call it Crypto Island, where the Sango is going to be a digitally wallet issued by the government, kind of similar to the Chivo wallet in El Salvador. But essentially, they've got three objectives of this island: to build the investment hub, first investment hub in Africa, take Bitcoin to the next level. I'm not quite sure what that means, but that's what one of their objectives, and build this crypto island. So, what do you think of, I guess, El Salvador and Central African Republic both kind of building like their own Bitcoin hubs? Because we got Bitcoin City in El Salvador, and now Crypto Island in Central African Republic.
It's interesting. It's all fancy, but that comes with it. What's the purpose of it? That we could be using that energy and focus on trying to create something like that to more in trying to educate people, get more people involved. Interacting with Bitcoin. I just feel like right now at times like this, money could be used a lot better than that. But ultimately, that's the way they're going to do it. And that the politician games, that's part of that slippery slope, is they want to add in their tweaks to it. But, if El Salvador turns into, a paradise for Bitcoiners in the future, then I'm going to be, my thoughts will be wrong about it. And Max Kaiser will be enjoying himself. But it's I don't know, it's fascinating stuff. But the adoption of legal tender, I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing that. Anything to get us filled up to that point across the world, I think would be really fascinating to see. But ultimately, like we were talking about, if everybody just chooses the money and chooses Bitcoin, then the free market decides that way. So it would be nice to see, like, what's really cool is the meetups are essentially doing what these governments are trying to do with these crypto hubs, but more at a local level and grassroots. And that's the cool thing about the meetups, is what they're trying to do with these. They're trying to bring in money, play the fiat games by creating these destination places. But ultimately, the meetups and everything like that, that's where everything does happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And I think it is kind of like a publicity stunt too, of these two things. But I think, at the end of the day, Bitcoin becoming legal tender in these two places is a publicity stunt in itself as well. I mean, like, I know plenty of people who have traveled to El Salvador now, when, before that, I had no desire to go to El Salvador. I mean, I did, I'm no offense to there as a country or anything like that, but you think of like tropical islands, you think of, Aruba, like maybe something like that. You never really heard of like El Salvador as like kind of like a destination, and now like it seems like a beautiful place and everything like that. But yeah, it seems like, they're kind of trying to clean it up. Granted, I don't think building a city at the base of a volcano is necessarily a great idea, but hey, that's not in my prerogative or anything like that. I think they're good ideas, and they're good publicity. And like, I know Bitcoin, or El Salvador, is using their Bitcoin bonds to fund the city, which is kind of cool. And they're getting a lot of donations from it too. So it doesn't seem like it's all from like taxation. It almost seems like it's crowdfunded, which is kind of cool to see a lot of people rally around El Salvador. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think, well, in the United States, we kind of have like the infrastructure, right? So we have big cities, Knoxville, not necessarily like a big name city, but it is a good size city. And there is a lot of people and obviously a lot of stuff going on there in the Bitcoin space as well. There's Nashville, a lot of these hubs are kind of becoming more and more like destinations for Bitcoiners, and I think that that's going to continue, right? Like I kind of want to travel around just so I could see like the boots on the ground and the Bitcoiners all over the country. Well, so not just privy to my where I'm living right now, but yeah, I also think it's an interesting tactic, and I think the publicity also kind of forces some people to get educated. So whether you like it or not, it's some sort of marketing for Bitcoin. I don't like Bitcoin obviously doesn't have a CEO, so nobody can control its marketing tactics. So Bitcoiners are just going to market it how Bitcoiners want to, and I think that this is kind of their way, the government's way of promoting it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the kind of thing like how I feel about politicians, echoing Bitcoin. It's just another way of adoption happening, and kind of it is what it is at that point. So pick your poison. What would you rather, have happen? I don't know. It's because the politicians make you feel like, oh, well, then hyper Bitcoinization can come quicker because they adopted this legal tender. We just have this euphoria. Oh, hyper Bitcoinization is coming right around the corner. And it's hard to kind of put those emotions and feelings aside when you do see things like that and realize, it's two countries out of 100, 70 to 180, however many it is, and in the world, and they're small in comparison. So,
well, you did bring up a point, and I wasn't going to ask about this, but I kind of want to get your opinion. Do you think that hyper Bitcoinization is there? Because I've kind of heard two schools of thought, so I'm curious where you're at.
yeah, I think as time goes on, I go back and forth with my answer. So I would say right now in time, um, I would just say with the pace everything is growing, the technologies that are being built on top of Bitcoin, the Lightning Network, which I am like super bullish on Lightning Network. It's going to happen, pretty quickly here soon, I feel, and it's just going to be so in your face, and people. You think about Lightning invoices, in the early years and what they're turning into now, and somewhat the complications as being new to Lightning, and just what Jack Dorsey and Spiral's doing with the Lightning developing kit, and how easy and seamless that makes it to use that on Cash App or a similar service like Moon Wallet, and how simple and easy that is. There's other wallets like Blue Wallet that isn't quite as convenient to use Lightning, if you're newer. So yeah, I think the hyper Bitcoinization thing, I think I would say yes because of everything that's being built on top of it and around it. It may not be the fact that a majority of the world's population has it in their pockets, but it's definitely there is a lot of ignition ready to be set off here soon.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you there, and I think hyper Bitcoinization is here because at the end of the day, almost everybody in the globe has some way to access or get Bitcoin, in my opinion, or if not everybody, majority of people do. And you're getting to the point where all these apps and everything are being built up. We're having billion-dollar industries like the Bitcoin mining industry. I think in 2021 was like a $15 billion industry. So you're telling me that something that isn't necessarily I guess hyper Bitcoinized or like available all over the globe in a $15 billion industry isn't something that's significant. I think if you go down the street and ask a random person, do you know what, have you heard of Bitcoin? Everybody in the United States is probably going to say yes. Now, granted, I still think that there's a lot of education gap, and we're actually going to get into a cool project next about education. But I think that we're still like, a little ways away on that. But I think, the accessibility and the way that you can use Bitcoin now is greater than ever before. And I think that's just going to continue. So I would kind of agree with you there too. And the person that kind of opened my eyes to that is Heady Walk. So shout out to him again. I know we keep kind of bringing him up, but he's great for the space, and he kind of opened my eyes a little bit too. So, but yeah, I mentioned it as well in my little montage right there. But we've got like an education project going on in Argentina. So I'm flipping the hat backwards. I mean business now. Bitcoin is now going to be taught in 40 different high schools in Argentina. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's also 4,000 high school students. So Bitcoin Argentina is who's funding this, and they're non-governmental organizations. I kind of want to make that point there, and that they're partnering with the education system and as well with partnering with Built with Bitcoin. And so now currently the inflation rate in Argentina is over 55%. So it seems like that they need a change, right? And so it seems like they're leaning towards moving towards a hard money like Bitcoin. Granted, the people understand this, and the people want to, move towards a new currency and something else. And I think that they're kind of going against the government, because I think the government kind of sees the way the IMF and other things have kind of come at El Salvador and Central African Republic, and it kind of shied them away, because I know that they haven't necessarily been like full forward towards Bitcoin. But I think if enough of the people, and maybe if some more education happens at the high school level, it could be very positive for Bitcoin. So this is kind of the first country that I'm seeing like implement it in their education system. So what do you think about Bitcoin being ingrained into the overall education system in Argentina and in any country?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we need. We need, being from the education system, there is a lack of knowledge in the students coming up in this world nowadays. And, they just don't teach things like that here in the US. And I'm sure they don't teach that in a lot of other places as well. About hard money or any economics in general. You get a very brief one semester, dip your toe in high school, and on your way you go. And so for places like this to be doing stuff like that, that's what it's all about. It's all about educating the people, giving them the knowledge, and hopefully they end up getting the conviction and start orange pilling people themselves. And that's the purpose of why we do the Knoxville Meetups and the structure that we do. We want them to have the conviction that we do, and to go share that with those around them. And I would wear my Bitcoin sweatshirt to sub at, back home, and I'd get some students reoccurring in the class. Oh, it's a Bitcoin sub. So I may not have been able to teach them about Bitcoin overall. A couple asked me some questions, and I got to get down to it. Well, what do you think of NFTs? Don't do that. Just do Bitcoin. And so I try to at least give them a touch. I could be like, man, remember that high school sub we had who was wearing a Bitcoin sweatshirt? Like, how weird. But yeah, if only more places in the world would do things like this and start educating their people about Bitcoin, the better off. But the governments and they don't want their people knowing about, a lot of them don't want their people knowing about Bitcoin. So unfortunately, having a Bitcoin education system is going to be further away, but that's why there's so many. We have the internet. We don't need the education system anymore. Nobody taught me Bitcoin. I went and learned it myself, but there's so many people putting out great work. There's a lot of resources out there now.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's the one aspect about all Bitcoiners is they've kind of took it upon themselves to learn, right? So they're lifelong learners. But not everybody's like that. And I think, some people think about money once every month when rent's due or bills are due or something like that. Like, all right, do I have enough or something like that? as long as they have enough, they don't really care about it or anything like that. So I think, I think educating people on financial education is very important. And I know in Florida, Ron DeSantis passed a bill where that's going to start being taught in high schools here. So good on him for doing that. And I hope that that kind of gets into the realm of teaching about Bitcoin. I know a couple teachers down here and in other places too that are teachers in private schools that are teaching it. But like obviously in the public schools, that's where a majority of people are, and that's kind of where you get at the end of the day, that'll kind of help change and shift the mindset of people. But I at the end of the day, Bitcoin is, or the financial system is run by the government, and public school systems are funded by the government. So Bitcoin kind of is combative to that. So I don't know if they really have an incentive to teach their students about it,
Not at
but
all.
I hopefully one day that they'll do that, and but we'll see. I think the education system kind of has a long way to come. But I also know too,
Education's awful right now, so it has a long ways to come. I mean, just finances alone, the education system now. So
yeah, exactly. And I know I had Kyle Murphy on last week, and he's getting with people at the University of Texas to teach a Bitcoin class. And I think the people are going to start waking up to how many jobs are available if you know or prove that you have some skills that can help some Bitcoin companies. And at the end of the day, you need to have the knowledge of Bitcoin in order to work at it, at least in my opinion. So I was kind of surprised to hear that a lot of non-Bitcoiners work with you, but that's another time, but I think that, this will just kind of help more people get into the industry. And once one college does it, others will follow once they see maybe it's a bigger draw or something like that, or get some good
it's a
publicity.
weird guy dancing alone, and then all of a sudden that other weird guy is joining them.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's a lot of followers. Right. So,
Yeah.
so the next story, and it's kind of the last one to wrap up here, is Balenciaga and a couple other luxury brands. So I'm not necessarily a luxury brand guy, but they're now accepting Bitcoin as payment. And the reason why I think this story is significant is not necessarily because these big brands are accepting it, it's because of who their clients are. Their clients are wealthy individuals. And what this kind of tells me, and you could either agree or disagree, but what this tells me is that these big wealthy individuals who are buying these products have brought it to their attention that they want to pay in this currency in Bitcoin. And so they're doing what their clients want, and they're not just doing this for publicity, because Balenciaga doesn't need any publicity, Gucci doesn't need any publicity. They get rappers rapping about it all the time, or people shouting them out. I think Kanye West has partnered with Balenciaga and Gap to make some shoes or something. So now maybe Kanye is going to be holding Bitcoin if he already doesn't. So I mean, like they already have enough publicity as it is. So I don't really see this as a publicity stunt. I see this as them kind of answering to their clients. So what do you think? Do you think these wealthy individuals are kind of trying to pay in Bitcoin, or do you think that I'm wrong about it and it's a publicity stunt?
No, I mean, shoot, there could be some really smart, wealthy people out there who truly understand what's going on in the world and see what inflation's doing to their purchasing power. And maybe they are orange pilled themselves, or they have people on their board who are orange pilled. And, this could be a good thing. Obviously, I want to see some smaller local businesses do it and help the local communities grow from the grassroots level rather than this, but more Bitcoin exposure, the better. And like your point as well, their clients that they have, wealthy individuals, and the more they see it, they're going in there occasionally. Oh, they have this again. What is that? How do I pay in that? And I worked at a brewery back home, Lengthwise Brewing Company in Bakersfield, and they accept Bitcoin there. We set them up with a node, and they accept Bitcoin. So, it's pretty cool what when you put stickers and, Bitcoin accepted here, the conversation you start to have, and that's just one of those touches for so many people, and who knows, by the time they go back in that Gucci shop or whatever, and maybe they had a couple more touches in between, maybe they got their own wallet and they're paying for Bitcoin the next time. So, definitely fascinating stuff. Hopefully they're able to pay through Lightning and save those fees. But I'm sure they don't know about all that quite yet. But yeah, it's really cool stuff. And it's that domino effect, that one weird guy dancing alone and then another one. And just, it's inevitable.
Yeah, exactly. And I think more and more of these companies are going to start accepting Bitcoin. And so, I think businesses as a whole, they're seeing this 3% fee that you're talking about, that Jack Mallers talked about in his keynote at Bitcoin Miami. All these companies are going to start feeling the pain of inflation and rising costs to their, capital expenditures, which is just essentially a big word for their expenses, right? So, wages are going up, everything's going up, and so their bottom line and their prices are going to have to go up. But that there's this line that they got to toe with supply and demand. So if they can limit some of their expenses with reducing that 3% fee that they get now on mostly digital payments, that could be very advantageous for especially some of these big players where if you buy like a $1,000 bag or whatever from Balenciaga, it's that 3% fee is now $30, and like that over time, when you don't sell as many because you're like a luxury brand, that might add up. And so it seems like they're kind of moving towards that. So and obviously wealthy individuals have kind of wanted it. So now Balenciaga is going to have to not only have somebody that understands how to accept the payments in Bitcoin, but they're also going to have somebody in the accounting department that knows how to deal with those Bitcoin payments. So
and here's the fascinating thing of what I tell businesses: if I try to orange pill them and about accepting Bitcoin, you mentioned the saving on fees, but also with where we are at with Bitcoin adoption, others not wanting to separate with their stats, you're going to get probably far less than even 5% of your overall transactions in Bitcoin. So all you need to do is just view that as your store's treasury savings and just don't think about it for a few years and, just hold on that Bitcoin for now. So just imagine like whatever Bitcoin payments you do have, it's gone. Just put it away for a while and just save it for later.
Amen. And on that, let's wrap it up. So thank you so much for joining me. Everybody go check out the Knoxville Bitcoin Meetup. And what is it? At Bitcoin KBN, is that correct?
Yeah. And Knoxville Bitcoin Network. There is another meetup out there, or former one. So just if you Google it, whatever, it'll trip you up. So Knoxville Bitcoin Network. We got a website as well. My buddy Connor did a great job on it. KnoxvilleBitcoin.com. We're on Meetup app, Twitter. Got some resource videos on YouTube, but mainly our website page will be a good instructional resource as well.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll put all that stuff in the show notes. So, at the end of the day, find them on Twitter. They got their website on their bio, and that's where I found everything as well. So be sure to give them a follow. And if you're in the surrounding area in Knoxville, go ahead and check them out. Go ahead and join. When is the date of the meetup? When do you guys have it?
Try to do it like the last Wednesday of every month. So the next one will be June 22nd.
There we go. Last Wednesday of every month. Mark it on the calendar right now and figure out those travel plans to get to Knoxville. Don't go to see any University of Tennessee games. They're not really worth it. They're a trash football program. Whatever, neither here nor there.
Let's talk Bitcoin instead.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate your time.
Have a good one.